Hello and welcome to the Richard Harvey weekly video blog. My name is Rob Meagher. Richard has invited me as a guest video blogger for this week's video blog and possibly for the next couple of weeks as he immerses himself in a couple of sacred attention therapy related initiatives, mostly the development of sacred attention therapy online training level 2. Some of you may recognize me as the other guy in a lot of videos that you see of Richard. So I have the blessed opportunity to interview Richard, for example, bi-weekly for his interview series. And there's other initiatives that Richard and I collaborate on. And I'll touch on those a little bit during this video blog because Richard has invited me to respond to a few questions that will form the basis for this video blog. And the first one was, how has my relationship with Richard developed over the last 5 years, the last 5 years being the period of time that Richard and I have known each other. And that relationship began in 2011, and it was a LinkedIn connection, seemingly happenstance, out of the blue. I can't remember if it was I that sent the connection request to Richard or if Richard sent the connection request to me, but we became connected on LinkedIn. And there was an energy connected with that LinkedIn connection request that resulted in us following up via Skype to learn more about each other's work. And shortly after that initial greeting and meeting on Skype, Richard sent me an invitation to review one of his manuscripts at the time that was in development, and that manuscript was for a book that was intended to be called Human Awakening. And that book later became Your Essential Self, a much shorter version of the original manuscript. And that original manuscript, Human Awakening, has since been published under its original name. So the first collaborative effort or venture that Richard and I embarked on was my reviewing his manuscript for Human Awakening. And there have been many other major literary works that Richard has published that I've reviewed. There's 3 ebooks, Dharma Sky Moksha Dham Bodhi Ocean, Your Sacred Calling, which will be published later this year, later in 2016, and many others. And then I began working with Richard in a therapeutic capacity, Richard as my therapist, in 2012. And shortly after that, Richard worked with me as a supervisor for my therapy counseling practice. The next major collaborative effort was giving birth to the Sacred Attention Therapy, or SAT, website in its current form, which is a portal for all of Richard's teachings related to Sacred Attention Therapy. That website, I do believe, was launched in 2012. It did receive a facelift in 2015, last year, I believe. And we're at the very beginning stages of planning another major website transformation. In 2014, we began our most ambitious collaborative effort to date, and that was the development, production, and hosting of Sacred Attention Therapy online training, level 1, is what we began with. It took about, and was about 10 months of intensive effort, and we officially launched level 1 training in 2015. And we're currently at the very beginning stages of producing Sacred Attention Therapy Level 2 online training. Now, along the way, review of these manuscripts, development of the Sacred Attention Therapy website, the Sacred Attention Therapy online training, there was numerous lecture series that I was able to give the introduction for, as well as read the manuscripts in preparation for ebooks that were created as a result of the lecture series. I've been able to immerse myself in Richard's teachings, which resonate with me very deeply. my background in psychology and divinity, as well as theology, all of this came together in a very beautiful way for me in being exposed to Richard's work. And through all of these collaborative efforts, a deep mutual respect has grown between Richard and I. And while still to this day Richard and I have not met in person, I do consider Richard to be a dear friend. Richard asked me to respond to what impact this unfolding relationship has had on my spiritual search and my spiritual growth. It's been interesting because what Richard's teachings, what my relationship, my growing, my transforming relationship with Richard has done for me is it's loosened my desire to get anywhere, per se, with my spiritual practice and with my spiritual growth, and to simply be. I remember when I was first exposed to his first major published work that I referenced earlier, Your Essential Self. It talks about Richard's three-stage model of human awakening. Stage 1 being journey of self-discovery, stage 2, transformation into authenticity, and then stage 3, as I paraphrase, union with the divine. And I remember studying this model, reading what it was all about, and thinking, oh boy, the first thing I've got to do is figure out where I am so that then I can figure out what I need to do to get to the next stage. And I've come to a point where I'm not particularly interested anymore in figuring out where I am in that three-stage model and what I need to do to get to the next stage, but more so just simply be present wherever I am. And lastly, Richard invited me to respond to what's the most valuable part of my relationship with Richard, or what do I value most about my relationship with Richard. I came to realize very quickly in meeting Richard, getting to know him, working with him, is that he could see right through me. He could see into the depths of my soul. He could see directly into my heart. And what that has done for me, and what I value the most, is that I have no choice but to simply be myself. No illusions, no cover-ups, no facade, just me. And that's very refreshing. It may be the very first time in my life that I've been able to be just me with someone else, and I cherish that greatly. So I hope over the next couple of weeks, as Richard has invited me to be a guest video blogger in his series, that you'll join in, you'll continue to watch, and I trust Richard will be back in a few weeks. Bye-bye.